So I'll start with a recap like I do each week. So 2 weeks ago, I think it's 2 weeks ago, we started talking about kind of our foundation of running, kind of the base. We talked about our foot and kind of how the foot lands. And there's a few of you that weren't on that call that's on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge you. Actually, I want you guys to go ahead and take your shoes off if you have shoes on. Take your shoes and socks off. And what I want to talk about is actually how your foot functions, right, in terms of the bones, in terms of the structure, and the purpose of it. So, has everybody got their shoes off? Everybody got their shoes? Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your foot and just lift it up a little bit off the ground wherever you're sitting, and I just want you to gently apply all the pressure you can to the ball of your foot. Watch how your foot spreads out, okay? And this is what I want to explain to you all is people don't take care of their feet. I'm going to start with that today as part of my recap. We don't take care of our feet. When we take our shoes off, which we wear shoes probably too much, when we take our shoes off, we don't ever do any self-care on our feet. So I encourage you just to take your foot and kind of move it around a bit, kind of move the toes independently, working those joints a little bit, because we ask our feet to do so much, right? And we don't ever notice our feet until we have a foot problem, like a plantar fasciitis, like an Achilles issue, something like that. You got some type of tendonitis maybe. And so what I want you all to think about is take care of your feet. Really, like at night, just lay in the bed, just kind of wiggle them around a bit, loosen the joints up, just like the rest of your body. You know, you stand up after sitting on the computer with poor posture, and you stand up, you got to kind of stretch your back a bit, you know. Same thing with your feet. When you take those shoes off, help them spread back out and get more natural. That's what we talked about a couple weeks ago. And then last week we talked about knee alignment and the purpose of the knee. Beth, I'm going to mute you real quick.
All right.
There we go. And so we talked about the purpose of the knee and kind of how the knee actually is supposed to function with the rest of the movement pattern, right? And so what a lot of people talk about when they talk about the knee is they talk about some type of lateral issue. So you got, some IT band issue, maybe it's some peroneals that come up type issue. You end up with, runner's knee, which is kind of patellar tendonitis. Your quadricep tendons, which are these tendons right here along the top, they kind of go in this groove. Those sometimes can be tight if you're not stretching your quads enough, which can cause your knee to kind of ache and feel weird. So what I want you to think about and what we talked about last week in terms of the knee is the alignment and position of the knee in running, okay? The problem is that when we end up with knee problems, our knee is typically too far out in front of our kind of box around our hips, right? So our knee is overextending. And so instead of treating it like a shock in a car where it just absorbs the impact, what the knee actually is having to do is it's like taking the shock in your car and just offsetting it a bit so that it's not an equal suspension system. There's more stress and strain coming on one side of the knee or one part of the knee, okay? It's a very complex. If you ever look at the knee, you should Google like an exploded view of the knee. It's ridiculous. Don't Google exploded knee. You'll find some really gross images. But an anatomy and physiology like diagram of the knee, and really it's a really complex area that a lot of things tie into. So when a runner comes to me and they say, oh, I've got this pain right here, well, there's 2 or 3 things it can be, but most of the time we don't think it can be from these big old things up here, this big old booty, these hips, right? And so that can cause a lot of knee problems. You can get knee problems from the bottom up, things like that. So that's kind of what we discussed a little bit last week. Now, this week, I want to move up the chain a bit more, and I want to talk about the hips. Very, 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 very important. These are your absolute powerhouse, okay? So your feet are our base of support. That's our foundation, right? That's the tires on your car. Your knees are like your suspension system in your car. If you've ever, raise your hand, just a quick show of hands, if you've ever driven in a piece of shit car that the suspension squeaked or didn't quite act right. Is anybody else, or is it just me? Okay, so you know when it's not right, okay? And with suspension in a vehicle, if you can hear it or feel it, something's wrong. Same thing with running. If there is a part of your body that you can hear or feel, something's not right, right? That's a red flag. It's not normal, okay? The body is supposed to work biomechanically. We have developed it to where it can run, okay? But biomechanically, you shouldn't have aches and pains outside of like muscle soreness and adaptation. Shouldn't have joint pain, shouldn't have tendon and ligament pain. So that's your first red flag. That is your check engine light that comes on your vehicle. So if you're having that pain, start to really look at your form. Start to really look at running. How do you run? One tip that some of you didn't get last week was if you're running and you can see all of your shoelaces in your shoe or the tongue of your shoe, you are overstriding. Your foot is too far in front of you. You're putting too much tension on the anterior, which is the front side of the knee. You're asking your knee to do something and your leg to do something it's not meant to do. You want to increase your cadence and make it to where you cannot see that. And if you have questions and weren't on the call last week, you can check out the video from last week, but also I can answer those questions for you later. So I want to talk about the Powerhouse, okay? These are the things that they absolutely are where we get our speed. They're absolutely where we get our power, where we get the ability to run uphill well, to run downhill, to run into the wind. These big glutes right here, it's a very complex muscle system. It's not just one big old muscle, or for some of us like me, it's a really small muscle, but it's a very complex setup. There are multiple muscles in there, okay? And I would recommend, again, do a quick Google search, anatomy and physiology of the glutes. And I want you to actually look at the different muscles, where they're at, how they work. The muscle I'm going to talk about today within that glute complex, the gluteus complex, is the gluteus medius, okay? Glute med, you'll hear it talked about that. You'll hear it talked about med, things like that. So this is your lateral stabilizer. So what I mean is, if you're looking, it's about, I call it the corner of your butt. It's about right here, okay? It's that muscle right there. Now, what that does is that muscle, I guarantee you've been running behind someone before, and you see when they're running, their hips do this, right? It's this big, dipping, rocking motion. But you run behind other people and you don't notice that. It's very obvious this time of year when people run with their shirts off. You can see, you can utilize the line of their shorts as kind of a balancing line. Watch how far that line goes down on each side. One side typically goes down more than another because we're not perfectly symmetrical. But the glute med is one of the hardest muscles to target, to strengthen, and yet it is the key catalyst in the majority of running injuries you've probably ever had, okay? And so I say, I tell athletes all the time, run from the hips. And what I mean by that is your hips should be the thing driving you, not your arms, not your chest, not your toes, not your knees. If your hips are forward as much as they can be, when those hips are forward, you are running well, okay? You're running strong. You're in a great position. Problem is the majority of athletes don't have that ability, okay? So how do you get that ability? Well, you can do targeted stuff, right? Squats, lunges, sumo squats, lateral movement things. One way that I like to do it is I like to really isolate things when I'm working on my personal run form or with athletes, okay? So I want everyone, if you have the ability to, I want you to stand up, and I want you just to stand. And I'm going to sit down so I can continue to talk. I want you to stand up, and I want you to stand only on your right leg, okay? So you're going to stand up like a flamingo, basically, and just kind of lift up that left leg. I just want you to stand there for a second. If you feel a shakiness, if you feel a wobble this early on, then immediately you know you have some lower leg stability issues. Now, I want you just to hop 2 or 3 inches off the ground on that right leg. Not much. Watch what happens when you land. You're going to kind of, whoa. Every time you land, you're going to wobble a little bit, okay? What that does is that is your body trying to auto-correct itself, right? I like to think about it because I love space. I like to think about it as if it were a spaceship going through space, and it's going to dock up with the space station. It has to fire a little engine on this side, and then it goes, oh, we overcorrected. Fire an engine on this side. We overcorrected, until they get it dialed in just right. That is what your muscles are doing when you're doing that hop, okay? So those that are still standing, I want you now to hop a little bit right, hop a little bit left. Watch. You'll notice that there is more stability issues in there. If you're just, and it's not far. You're literally just hopping as if it were over a parking lot stripe, right? It's a great way or great place to do it. It's a parking lot stripe. Do not do it in the middle of the road. That's a terrible life decision. But you can do it on the stripes in a parking lot and just hop back and forth, okay? You'll notice one leg is better than the other leg. But I want you guys to do this and really become more in tune with what your body is doing when you land. Now, when you hop, if you're on your right leg and you hop to your right, the muscle that must engage and fire when you land, one of them, of the many, is your glute medius, okay? So it has to be that little attitude corrector of it, as if it were a spaceship. It has to fire and go, whoop, let's keep those hips up. And then you hop the other leg, and you're hopping out or to your left, same thing. You'll hit, and it'll go, whoop, got to keep those hips up, okay? So the glute medius is absolutely probably the biggest pain in the ass, pun intended, that we can encounter as endurance athletes. Extremely hard to target, but very, very, very crucial in the overall ability to run or to get faster. So saying all that, how can we work on that? Because I promise you, if you've had a running injury, I'd almost bet you I bet you a decent amount of money that it probably stemmed from there or that region. So how do we target it? When you're running, very simple. I gave this recommendation last week. When you're running, I want you to make sure that if we're standing on one leg like this, right? So we're standing here, we have to put our leg right underneath of us. We can't stand like this with that leg, with it not centered under our hips. So when we run, it does the same thing. We want to bring that leg inside and stack it. So each of your feet land pretty much. If your shoes were wet, you would see your feet landing almost within each other when we run. That's not unnatural. If you see, especially women, it's very easy to see when they're running. You'll watch their hair. It does this little swoop-de-doo thing. That's somebody that's doing this, okay? They're landing inside a lot. They get this kind of wobble going, right? And you'll see great fast runners that do that. Their body has adapted to that. But we're all trying to become better runners, and we're not the best yet, right? We're not elite. We're not pro. We're not winning races. So I want you to think about this. When you're running, think about there being a sliver of light between those feet. Never landing, one part of your shoe never lands inside of the other shoe. Does it make sense? So we want to bring it out. So it's here and then here. See that little gap in between the two? Right? So as soon as we start to cross over, we're starting to let that glute medius relax. It doesn't have to work as much if our feet are up under us when we're running. So all you got to do is think about it almost lift that hip up. It brings that hip out a bit. So it actually works it on your runs. Okay. Now, obviously you don't want to do this for the entire 10-mile run that you have, because that's just bonkers and you guys don't like to do stupid things. So I would tell you, like I always say, focus on it from light pole to the next trash can, the first 10 seconds of every third minute, or however you want to break it up. Very important though is it's what they call a proprioceptive cue, meaning you have to actually recognize that it's not right to fix it. Okay. You have to actually say, you're not doing right. I'm tired of you screwing around. Let's do it right. Let's get our spacing in there. Okay. Very important, because if you don't identify it and really look at it and say, hey, this is what I have to do to get better, it's not going to get better. But again, we're not staring at it all the time. There are other workouts you can do. A very easy one is if you have stairs at your house, or here I'm at some random park near where I was riding the bike. So there's curbs all around the street. There's curbs around this little park area. Go stand on a curb like this and just dip the hip down and then raise it back up. Does that make sense? So you're standing here like this. You let your leg sink down off the curb, and then you fire the opposite hip to bring it back up, right? So it's just literally doing this movement here, but with your hips. Very, very good. You know what? You got stairs at your house, do 50 of those a day. What we're looking for when we talk about run form, the most frustrating part that I find with run form is I'm looking to get you 2 degrees better at what we're doing. 2 degrees, okay? What does that mean? Well, there's obviously 360 degrees. So if I'm looking to change knee flexion by 2 degrees, you won't see it with your eye. It's really hard to measure without certain tools or certain apps and things like that. But what you will notice is that over time, you will run a bit faster and you will become less injury prone. You'll all of a sudden notice, man, you know those shin splints I used to get, or that IT band problem I used to get during running season or marathon season or whatever, I hadn't had that in a long time. That's the problem with run form, is it's not this instant gratification. It's not this big email in your inbox going, you did it, your run form is better, keep going. You know, it's none of that crap. It's very simple, like, oh, well, I haven't been hurt in a while, right? So that's a great way to really target that. Now, the last half of what I want to talk about, any questions on that before I go on? I know I'm pretty jacked up and excited today, but feel free to stop me if you have questions.
Any other exercises to do, like squats and stuff, or that just kind of?
Yeah, so yes, if you're going to do squats, I want you to have a rubber band over your knees right here. So what happens is if this movement here, and I'm not going to face you all directly, but this movement here fires this muscle, okay? If you're standing on that stair and you're doing that little hip drop lift thing, put your hand on what I call the corner of your butt or your hip right there. You'll find the muscle that's firing. You'll feel it. Everyone has it. You'll feel it get tight when you lift it, and you'll feel it relax when you let it down. When we run and get fatigued, that's what causes that to go down. Who's ever kicked their own calf when they're running, right? Or you come back and you got some mud right there, you kind of trip yourself a little bit. That's because when you lift that leg up, the glute med just goes, I'm done working. I don't have to do anything. And it relaxes. That allows that foot to come inside directly under your body, hitting your calf. I do that. That's my cue to fix myself. So, yes.
Jay, it's good to do without weight, or you recommend with weight?
No, I always recommend no weight, because the thing is, hang on, this truck is really loud. I'm sure you guys can hear that. So the thing is the majority of people don't do their exercises right without weight. So if you add weight, it's just going to magnify it. So no, but you put a band over your knee and do your squats, that's going to force you to kind of rotate out a bit more. Same thing. You take that same band, you squat down in like a defensive basketball type stance where you're going to laterally slide, right? Okay. And you just take a step and a step and a step, utilizing that band right here, provide that resistance out here. Now listen, here's the thing. There are 12 or 13 people on this call. 2 of you are going to do this for 2 weeks, and then 1 of you is going to do it for 4 weeks, and then nobody else is doing this crap. So I get it, but I'm giving you the advice. I'm giving you the tools.
I have one other exercise that's really good.
For sure.
So step ups to a high box.
Okay.
Is super good because anytime you can do single leg work, it's going to fire that glute med. So squats are good, but really single leg squats, if you can do them correctly without your knee collapsing in, and then step ups to a high box or high platform really gets that glute med.
Thank you. And there the physical therapist comes through with years of experience and knowledge. I'm just making this crap up. And a lot of it's stuff I've learned from her. So I'm no magician here.
Hey, Jeremy, similar to what you were just talking about, one of the things that I've been going through recently, and I've been talking with Jesse about it, is so just a little bit lower, right around that area where your sciatic, right, like the middle of your butt muscle right there.
Yep.
All last week, I had like this extreme pain there and all down my front thigh on my right leg, a little bit on my left, but mostly on my right, to a point to where I couldn't run. I couldn't do anything, right? So took a couple of days off, I got out, did some light running, a little bit of glute work or whatever. And now the pain has subsided again, right? But I can still tell that there's like a little bit of pain right in that sciatic nerve area. It's always kind of there. It's just very numb right now, very slight right now. But, I'm curious if any of this is good, to be able to improve that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're having a pain in the butt, Larry. Is that Jesse?
Yeah.
Coach?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you've recognized that pain is obviously bad. Kendall, do you have anything you'd recommend, being the resident expert on that?
Yeah, for sure. So stretching out that, because what's happening is the sciatic nerve, if that's what it is running straight through your piriformis muscle in the back. So if you do figure 4, you want to show them figure 4 stretching, Jeremy?
Right now?
Yeah, just lay on your back. Yeah.
Can you guys see me?
Cross your right leg over your left. Yeah, and then pull forward. That'll stretch out that muscle. And so he's stretching his right piriformis now. So that's good. But for sure, what's happening when you're running is that what Jeremy was talking about, how your hips are dropping as you run. That's putting a lot of pressure on that piriformis muscle to overwork for a weak glute med. So if you work on this hip strengthening that he's talking about to kind of level out your hips as you're running, that should decrease the pain.
Yeah, because I can definitely tell when I'm running. I can definitely tell. I can feel the drop, right? Like rocking back and forth, side to side. I mean, I can feel it, and it's almost like it's almost like it's, how do you want to put it? It's almost like you're kind of like you're hobbling. Yeah, you're just hobbling along, right? And you can feel it. It never feels like really steady.
Yeah.
So you are supposed to have a little bit of that hip drop, but not as much probably as you are having.
Mm-hmm.
So what I heard, Larry, is that you're having a pain in the ass and you have a weak ass. Does that sound like a good?
That pretty much sums it up. Thanks, Jeremy, for calling that out.
Killed it. But no, it's good. So the thing that I like about this though is, you know, we can joke about it. We all have hip drop. Everyone has it. Every runner I've ever worked with has it. Okay. But it's a matter of, can we strengthen the muscles around there? The biggest limiter to getting better at the run is not being able to run, is being injured. Right. And so your hip drop may only come up 1 degree, very, very minimally measurable. But at the end of the day, if you're able to log more miles consistently safer, you're going to get faster, period.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so ultimately, and the other thing too, is a lot of athletes, I mean, you guys are spending a little bit of time to try to learn a little bit and get better, but a lot of athletes, they don't care about this. They don't think about it until they're hurt, until they go see a physical therapist, until they have to take time off, until they have to go to Claudia for massages routinely because they're all busted up.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think about it until it's broken. And you guys are here trying to learn so that it doesn't get broken. But I mean, all that single leg stuff, I mean, I guarantee you, Jesse's got a ton of good functional strength single leg workouts that he can give you that, I mean, here's the deal. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to, if it doesn't help you, it's not going to hurt you unless you go crazy with it and are putting too much weight on there or all this kind of ridiculous stuff. I said that and Kendall cringed. The doctor goes, bad advice. Anyway, so, but yeah, just be smart with it and just be aware of it when you're running, right? Any other questions about that before I move on, or thoughts? Thank you all for the input for sure. So the next piece of what I'm going to talk about, I'll wrap it up pretty quickly here, is when I said the hips are the powerhouse, okay? We do not utilize our hips enough in running. If we want to go faster, we think that we just increase our stride length and increase our turnover and we're there, okay? So I challenge you on your next runs, think about, I want you guys to envision a tree falling, okay? It falls just like that, right? If it falls in the woods, does it make a sound? We still don't know the answer to that, but a tree will fall. When it does, the tree typically falls like this. That is the running motion. A lot of athletes like this or like this, right? And so when I tell them to fall forward, they want to try to either bend from the ankles or they want to bend the hips. I mean, I'm sorry, they want to bend the hips, or like they should, bend at the ankles. Okay, so if we bend the hips to go faster, we're not really going to get faster. We're leaving our legs behind us. So what I want you to think about is utilizing those hips. When I say, you know, again, 10 seconds every 5th minute, the next light pole, whatever, I want you to think about going timber like a tree, okay? But to do that, your hips have to lead the way. Your hips have to be forward. Your hips have to be driving to create that fall. I'll tell you right now, you can create enough of a fall that your leg speed right now cannot keep up with it, but you have the potential to run faster by doing that. So here's the drill I want you to do when you're running. I want you to lean forward and then lean backwards, and lean forward and lean backwards. We all have different torso lengths. We all have different mass. We all have different leg lengths, things like that. So everyone's balance spot is going to be different. I can't tell you, oh, go 2 degrees forward and you're going to be a great runner. Everyone's a little bit different, okay? So you just got to kind of find that sweet spot. You'll find the spot where you can maintain it and you're like, man, I am freaking flying. I'm like Roadrunner right now with my legs. And then when you lean back, you'll go, well, this is terrible. I'm not going anywhere. So you just find that sweet spot for you. But again, do it. You want to go faster, just lean forward from the ankles, right? We want to lean like a tree falls, okay? But we can't do that without bringing our hips, which are magically right here, with us, okay? Because if we do this, that's not leaning forward. Our hips are still back. Hips have to be forward if we do that, okay? That's your drills for the week. Any questions on that? Questions, cares, comments, concerns, suggestions, recommendations, affiliations, or chicken pot pie?
Jeremy, I have one.
Yes.
What about when you're running like downhill and uphill? Do you change that, the lean?
For sure. It's definitely a bit different. Going uphill requires more knee drive. The lean is still the same. If anything, we're going to leverage our arms. The visualization I like to give athletes is pretend that you're pulling a rope towards you as you're running up the hill. So your arms are driving a bit more. Now, what I want you to notice though is as I'm running, my arms are driving. My arms aren't doing this crap, right? That makes what little hair I have do the side to side trick. It's here, driving those elbows, or driving the elbows forward, and the elbow comes to the shoulder. And I'll talk about some arm swing stuff later. But yes, you want to definitely drive more going up a hill. Going downhill, you do want to lean back a bit more, but it's going to beat your quads up, right? So the ultimate, learn to run fast. Start on a little grassy knoll somewhere. Like I said, I'm at this park. I'm sure you can find a levee somewhere around here, and you just run down it as quick as your feet can possibly turn over. If you eat it, you eat it. Who cares? Get up, do it again, right? But you'll learn that feel, that pull. You'll have that gravity just tugging on you, pulling you down that hill. So yes, Brandy, you do change it up a bit. But I don't think anyone on this call has, well, maybe Michelle has some access, or Garrett might have some access to hills. But if you're doing garage repeats or anything like that, or levees, yeah, you definitely want to change up. But still, we're still a rigid board in terms of how we fall. We're not leaning forward like this or leaning back like this. We're running downhill or uphill. Did that answer your question? I think so. She's on her phone, so I think she muted again. Any other final thoughts, cares, questions, concerns, chicken pot pie, anything? Clear as mud? Got our marching orders for the week? Okay. Listen, it's a long process to become a better runner. I know we all want to be running 7-minute miles right now, or 9-minute miles right now, or 5-minute miles right now. But I'll tell you a secret, you're not going to. It takes years of run development, not just run form work. It's just one small piece of the puzzle. Again, the only thing that run form is going to do for you is it may make you faster in a little short effort, but in the end of the day, run form is going to make you more durable. Durability leads to more run miles. More run miles leads to PRs and getting faster. Okay, so run form is not your magic bullet, but it is a key to the equation. All right? Awesome. If you haven't seen the other two videos, I have them posted on our YouTube channel, Mind Right Endurance on YouTube. There's a playlist that says running. Week 1 and week 2 are in there. And then this afternoon, I'll upload this video as well if you want to revisit it and check it out. I don't edit anything out. I say bad words in there, my bad. But go check it out. And if you have any questions, shoot me a note on Facebook Messenger or text or smoke signal or whatever you kids are into. Snap talk me or whatever you kids are doing nowadays. All right. Thank you all for your time. And I look forward to seeing how your runs develop. You all have a good day.